Well, here we go. I got all the components mounted on the board. An exception for the 470 nanofarad capacitor. But I thought that I may not need that one in lieu of the one that I have on the switch for the H pad. And I got that here. Looks like a platter of Oscar Mayer wieners. But I got the wires hooked up for that. But that's that 470. You see here the designation on it. Right, chair. 470 ohm. And I got these switches covered with electrical tape. So I liked Duffy's idea of having these piggyback on the switch. So I was going to experiment with the hot glue and see how well the hot glue, if it would hold or adhere to the electrical tape without compromising it, because there's some steel plates underneath some of those switches. Here's another one. Here's the green is for the tree line, for the high pass filter. So this is the motherboard for the high pass filter with the green wires for the tree line, so we can cut it off at the frequency. And I got that switch all wired up, but you see how there's metal plates on the side of them, so I taped that up. But I have to experiment. I don't want if the glue will melt through the electrical tape or if it'll adhere to it well and it'll still have the insulative factor. Otherwise, I'll be mounting these just like so, more or less, on the inside of the body. I was going to mount them to the inside of the mic body, but then when he suggested mounting them or piggyback on the switch, I thought that was a great idea. So I got these ready to go to get wired up. Where's the other switch that I got? So I got that for the high pass, the green. Oh, and then where's the platter of Oscar Mayer wieners? That's the H pad for whatchamacallit. Yeah, I'll probably put this more like something or another like that. Mount it on there like that. If I can get that in there to focus. So that'll get mounted like so. And then where's the other one? The EQ adjustment. Here's that one. I got the yellow for the bright. That's the 150. Yeah, and then the 220. I got a 220, or there's a 150. Can we see that? Where we get here? What, focus? Oh, I don't know. But you can kind of see it there. That's the 150. And then the one next to it, there's the 220. So that's that switch for the bright EQ. So I got to hook them up to the boards. But I got them all 3 switches. So that'll piggyback on this one too. Inside the body. More or less kind of like that once I get the tape on them. Kind of go like that. Then I got all the components mounted on the PCB board best I could. Boy, oh boy, some of them contacts or through holes were just shy of like a millimeter apart, and you had to really go easy. Oh, I got these 2 mixed up. That was one thing because I wasn't accustomed to designation. I got this one here. What is that? The 1M. I got that mixed up with the 1G. Don't ask me how I did that, but I didn't know what was what, and I thought it was. Anywho, I got it mixed up, and I swapped those, so I had to pull one out and put it back, reinstall it, and fortunately it worked out. I think it was the 1M. So I had to redo that. And you'll see, because everything's so tight on here, you don't necessarily mount everything orthodox, like close to the board. You'll see some of these are a little off and bent a little bit, but that's because I was maneuvering them and situating them where they weren't bumping each other. Like these here, down in here, I had to kind of kitty-wampus them, and they're leaning over different ways, different directions. So, and I wanted to get them as close to the board as possible. And then some contacts, they're really close to each other. Where were they? Yeah, this one right here. This one's real close right there. I don't know if you can see that one. Yeah, right in there. This contact right here. There's a little space between there. I haven't cleaned it up yet. But that's that. Not easy first project. That's for sure. I figure since I'd wired 2 cars, replaced a harness, and I tinkered around with hot rodding my guitar electronics, I figure I'd give this a go. So this is a little bit closer look at it. And then I left the legs out on the JFET. Some of these components, and then the other thing was when you're putting these in here, I initially went with the resistors first because they're closest to the board, but at the same time, because there's components on each side, you had to be careful because some of these are really hard to get in. Like, how are you going to get in here? In here to solder these 2 points with the JFET in the way and worrying about overheating it. So some of that stuff you got to put in first. This capacitor right here, before you put the JFET, or you mount the JFET, then you wind up trying to put this in, and then you wind up overheating it and wrecking stuff. So you got to kind of think it through and make sense of it. And the other thing that helped me out, beside that, Duffy really expressed, make sure you get wire that's really flexible. So I found this 22 gauge, the wire that I use for these switches is silicone wrapped rather than the nylon. And then silicone's a little more fluid. It moves around easier. And then the other deal was, some of this stuff, I'm using this Action. I don't know how to pronounce it. Action, AIXUN soldering. I think it's the T210, but it's got the small bits. And boy, I bent this one because I'm just too doggone rough with things, but it worked, for getting in these fine points rather than having some big old gaudy thing. Not to mention it's temperature thermostat controlled, so it cools down when I put it in the cradle, and then it fires up to temperature within seconds, so it stays really hot. So anyway, that's how far I got so far. I gotta hook up the switches now and ground out the body. But other than that, I think things will fit in there pretty good. I could see putting the switches in there pretty easy.
Done?